Okay, folks, so in order to get yourself really prepared for writing the 12 Days of Christmas, I thought what I should give you is a sort of a program for you, a similar a song called 99 Bottles of Beer on the Wall, which goes, if you're not familiar with it, 99 bottles of beer on the wall, 99 bottles of beer. You take one down, you pass it around, 98 bottles of beer on the wall. And it keeps going like that till you get to zero. It's a very tedious song, but it has sort of the same kind of iterative, a similar iterative structure as the 12 Days of Christmas. Slightly less complicated, but I figure if we code through this and you get a feel for how to do this, you should be in good stead for then coding the 12 Days of Christmas. So let's get started here. Um, Here I've opened up JSBin, and let's just give it a name. Add description, bottles demo. And let's get rid of the CSS because we're not going to use that. And let's write to the console and not to output. So console here. And, let's sort of think, that first line or of the song is, um, you know, uh, 99 bottles of beer on the wall. 99 bottles of beer. You take one down. You pass it around. 98 bottles of beer on the wall, right? Okay, so we're interested in outputting something like this to the console, which we can do like that. That should work. Let's see. Let's try it. And something's, of course, so my first problem, of course, very elementary, is that I've written a JavaScript, uh, some JavaScript here, but the HTML page is just seeing this as text. It doesn't know that it's JavaScript. So of course we've got to enclose this in the script tag. And in an earlier video, I said, you can put a script tag anywhere on the page. Actually, let's just start with it here. We'll move it up above just in a second, but I want to demo to you that it can go anywhere. And a little later in the course, I'm also going to show you beautify a way so that you can sort of beautify your code better. And that doesn't look promising because, this is a different color, but let's see what happens. No, it doesn't like that. Okay, so now we're getting, the first refrain of the song, and it's being output to the console. And you can see just the script tag we've put in the body of the HTML page. Conventionally, though, scripts usually reside up here. Let's put it up there for right now. Okay. And I'm sorry it's wrapping like that. That's kind of ugly, but that's just sort of the nature of long lines of code. So our next task, of course, is that we wouldn't want to write this out with 99 lines because then we're not taking advantage of sort of the iterative nature of programming. So we want to replace these particular parts of the song with variables that change for every time the song is resung. So you can see here that we have three variables. This is the amount of bottles of beer before anything is passed around. This is repeating that. And then here the number of bottles of beer on the wall after a bottle of beer has been passed around. So we can replace these with variables. And let's call this one, it's kind of a long name, bottles before, look how I'm using camel case, bottles before passing around. Okay, that's a long variable, but I'm at a loss for thinking about how to make it smaller. I mean, that's a part of it. The talent of good programming is being able to name your variables well. And while this is clearly named, it is just too long. But we're going to use this for now. It's a little cumbersome, but for the demo, it's helpful just to keep them this way. So here's one variable, and then of course here it is. We can put it here again, and then of course this one is after it's been passed around. So this would be bottles after passing around. Okay, so those are three, these are what should be variables. Let's run it again. And obviously, they're obviously not variables yet. We haven't declared them as variables. They're just considered text. So let's go ahead and declare them now. And this is the key to declaring a variable. Now our variable is declared. And our other variable is also now declared after I paste it in here. Okay, so now we have two variables declared, and generally you do want to declare your variables at the top of your scripts. That's just a good programming practice. Of course, nothing's going to change here. It's still going to run it the same way. So now we can actually display these variables in the console if we use our sort of concatenation techniques. So this right now is inside the text, but if we take it outside the text and concatenate it like so, you should sort of guess what's going to be displayed now. Let's run it again. And you get undefined, because while the variable has been declared, we haven't actually given it a value. So let's give it a value, 99, right? And now run it again. Now you get 99. Oh, look, there's not a space here, so we can add a space. Okay, and so now we can just use this same technique on the other two variables too. This, of course, would be right now 98. So now bottles before passing around. Well, it's already been defined there. So let's now do the appropriate concatenation. We end the string here, plus, and then plus after the variable too, plus, and then start the string again. And now let's, it's always good to do a little programming, then run it again, see whether you've created some sort of grievous error. But no, it's working. 99 bottles of beer, 99 bottles of beer. Look, oh, we need a space now. So, right there. And now this too needs to be concatenated. Plus, and then of course you see you have a string here, but it hasn't been, we haven't actually opened it. It's closed, but we haven't opened it. So if we put a quote mark there, notice when JSBin anyway, when you do this, by default it adds an extra set of quotes. You actually have to get rid of them, one like that. Let's run it again. So now we have 99 bottles of beer, 99 bottles of beer, 98 bottles of beer. So we're starting to, we've defined the variables now, but of course they're not sort of counting down, which is what they need to do, right? So they need to they need to be count down. What we can do is put it in a for loop, right? So let's do that next. For right now, I'm just going to do a standard for loop with x as a counter. Later on, we can rename that variable with something that's more meaningful. But so we declare the variable var x equals 99, because that's what we're going to start with. And then x has to be more than 0. And then our iterator is actually, instead of, usually you have an iterator that's incrementing like this, but in this case, we're going to have an iterator that's obviously going down instead of up. And now we got the block, which JSBin automatically adds. We can add this code now, move it up inside the block. Of course, we're not going to get anything here apart from it probably running this whole statement 99 times. Let's try it. And yeah, you probably have it run 99 times, but after the 99th time, we're still with 99 bottles of beer. So we actually have to decrement these variables now too, right? So we can go equals x, and then let's run that again. And you have one bottle of beer left, which we're kind of getting where we need to be. This variable is totally off because it says 98, but we can fix that really easily by decrementing it up here, which is bottles before passing around, and then -1. And let's run it again. And we have our last line is now, this thing is in the way, isn't it? One bottle of beer on the wall, one bottle of beer, you take one down, you pass it around, 0 bottles of beer on the wall. So it's working the way we want it to. The only problem here, or one little wrinkle, because the devil's in the details. Like, the way programming works is 95% of the programming is easy. It's that 5%, that's the sort of the small detail at the end that sometimes takes a lot of programming effort. And this is, an okay illustration of that, because look what's happened. We have one bottles of beer. We want that to be singular, not plural. Okay, so, and you're going to have a similar issue in the 12 Days of Christmas. Sort of small anomalies that you have to sort of account for. And the one that you have to account for in the 12 Days of Christmas is the first time you sing the refrain. On the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me a partridge in a pear tree, right? That's fine, but think about what you have to say the second time. You say, on the second day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 2 turtle doves and a partridge in a pear tree. So you have to add that and in somehow. That's not maybe quite the same as this, but here we're going to have to get rid of this plural. So what's the best way of getting rid of this plural in the last line of the song? Well, it looks like we probably have to add a suffix here, right? We've got to turn this into a variable that sometimes is on and sometimes is off. And so let's do that now. So plus, and we'll call it bottle suffix. Okay, so we have to figure out what this bottle suffix is going to be on every iteration. And this is where it's helpful to use, we can use a conditional here. So if bottles before passing around uh, is equal to 1, and remember a comparison operator is not an assignment operator, which means you got to use two equals. Equals 1, then it needs to be singular, right? Bottle suffix. We'll actually have no suffix. And else bottle suffix. These things are nice thing about Prettify. It'll do all this for you. And then bottle suffix has to be pluralized if it's more than one, or anything other than one. I mean, in this case, it's always going to be more than one. And we actually have an error in our code. Maybe you can see it now, but we run it, or at least a poor design. This has to be S, of course. Let's run it again. And look, it's always S. But in this last instance, it really needs to be not S, it needs to be one bottle. We have the bottle suffix here, and it should be assigning it correctly. But for some reason, it's not. Do you know why? Well, the first guess you might have, and is that somehow it's never getting to this statement, that it always does this statement, but not this one. So, we'll do a little more tutorial on debugging later, but we can maybe put something else we can run an alert, for example, alert debug, just to verify that this part of the program actually is run sometime. Let's see whether it is. And it is. So that does not seem to be the problem. The problem actually is that we haven't actually declared the variable. We have it here, but we don't have it with any var. So let's declare the variable up here. Var bottle suffix. And you can just declare a variable like this, but if you give it a value, if you assign it a value, it can be helpful in terms of reading the code to know for yourself in in the future, or some other programmer. If you give it a value, it helps anybody else who's looking at your code know exactly, get a sense of what that variable is actually supposed to be doing. Okay, so notice here that what we've done is assigned numbers to these variables. And like I said before, we don't actually have to define their type or anything. JavaScript can just sort of infer the type. In this case, we're not assigning a number, we're assigning a string, which is, I guess, what we did here, but I didn't really comment on that. Now let's run it again and see if it's working now. Clear it. And one bottle, yeah, we got the appropriate plural now. Okay, so let's just stretch out our code and see whether it's looking okay. I guess it is. This probably could be brought over and brought up too. Okay. And well, there's little things that you can, indentation is important. Now here I got the script tag, and I personally like to indent my code one more over like that. Now it's looking a lot prettier than it was. And all this stuff can be done automatically by the Prettify utility, but it's also helpful just to be able to know how to do it by hand as well. Okay, I will make this JSBin available to you so you can fiddle around with it too, but this should put you in good stead for doing the Christmas 12 Days of Christmas assignment. Good luck. Actually, I lied there for a second. There's one other thing one could do to make this a little bit better. Here we have an x variable. You know, that's okay. We know it's a counter, and we have a pretty good idea what it's doing. But we could rename this with something which better sort of describes what it is, which is bottles remaining. And now let's just verify whether it's all working. And looks like we're still running good. Okay. All right. Again, good luck with the assignment.